Welcome to the Pivot Experience podcast, where leadership transformation isn't just a concept, it's a journey we take together. This is where real leaders share real stories about the moments that changed everything. In each episode, we dive deep into the pivotal experiences that transformed good leaders into great ones. Whether you're a seasoned executive, a rising star in your organization, or someone ready to take that next big step in your leadership journey, you're in the right place. Get ready to learn, grow, and maybe even find that spark that ignites your own leadership pivot. This is the Pivot Experience podcast, where your next breakthrough starts here.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your friend, Pastor John R. Adolph from the Antioch Church in Beaumont, Texas. Hey, listen, do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe this channel so you can continue to pivot into your next.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of things to say about labor, Neff. I did tell Neff, and Neff and I work together. Like, my job as operating partner in our organization is I come up with a yearly projection, a quarterly projection, a monthly projection, a daily projection. That is where my level stops, is I come up with that daily projection. Our schedulers, who are our GMs at our restaurants, and their job is to dig into the daily hourly projection. And so, a lot of times, which they're getting so much better at, I've even heard them communicate this to me the other day, is like, hey, we just need to, we don't need to add labor. We just need to move it. We need to move it from this hour to this hour. And so, I clearly communicated that to them of hey, I'm going to do my job to the best of my ability of projecting out the year, the quarter, the month. And we have a spreadsheet that literally has all of them on there, and they know each week, how much we're going to do in sales. And then their job is to figure out how to schedule it. Then we've even taught our team leaders, one of my favorite sayings to them is, don't be a news reporter, be a newsmaker. Don't come to report to me how you feel about your shift today. You come make the news and tell me, hey, Miss Giovanna, we killed that hour. We ran 140 productivity and we didn't even feel it. It was awesome. And so teaching your team members to understand the numbers that you're expecting them to know, which for us as a shift leader, if you feel that your shift is chaotic, your first thing to do is let's look at productivity to see if that was actually true. Because if you're feeling that it was chaotic and you look back and your productivity wasn't the goal that you were supposed to hit, then now okay, let me evaluate where I had my people, where could I have moved some labor from one area to another? Did I set myself up for success with a good game plan for my shift? That's even part of it, is they have they've created a game plan for the day with a setup sheet. And they're like, oh my goodness, I have a brand new team member pushing out food. That was probably why we felt backed up in the drive-thru. And so getting them to understand it so that then they can come to you and be newsmakers and say, hey, our productivity was here, which is way over the goal. I think we could have added a pusher. And that then is they're growing as leaders as well and understanding where we need to shift and bend labor.
Yeah. I think having clarity in what the benchmark is going to drive better results in the restaurant. It's going to get all the leaders to be on the same page about where we're going. And it removes that feeling part out of it. If we understand that a team member should be able to take 50 orders, 40 orders, whatever that number may be, then it's easy to know, okay, well, if I did 150 transactions, that probably calls for 3 people, 3 order takers. But when there's not clarity in what the benchmark is, what the output is for every position or person, it becomes really difficult to be able to know when you really need more staff versus when you just lacked good management skills of those people under you.
And I'm glad you said that, Neff. And I was going to steal Giovanna's phrase that she uses all the time, is clear is kind, right? And so I think you guys are both talking about just having clarity in the results that you're expecting. Because again, when things are up, you know, I don't want to say you should always have clarity, right? And maybe this down season is forcing a lot of us to get to those moments of clarity to where we have these defined metrics. But I think it's really a good teaching tool. Again, going back to that same example, because a few things popped up from this conversation, right? It was some of the conversation that me and that leader was having. You know, I started talking to her about production from the morning lunchtime to the evening time. And, you know, it was well, we don't have the talent like you guys have during the day, right? We don't have that same level of talent. And then that brings up a whole nother set of questions. It's like, well, do we have the right people? You know, in this season, you know, do we have the people who understand the mission, understand the objective, and then understand their role in making that happen? And so a lot of times when you are put in these positions to have these conversations based on the down season, you can then uncover some other things that might have been hiding in the business while things are going well and sales are up. You might have some low performing team members that you may not have realized had you not been going through the season. And in your effort to become more clear and your effort to make those metrics more apparent, you'll maybe start to discover some other things that you need to address in the business. And so go ahead, Giovanna.
I've said this phrase forever. It's like sales covers a multitude of sins. So in those seasons where it's like sales are booming and like, I mean, you even know like a day that you have just really great sales. I'm like, man, those sales covered a multitude of sins. Like even our guests, they forgive us more when they see that we're busier. Like it literally fixes a lot of problems, but it also covers up a lot of issues that you didn't know you had, because you're like, oh, well, you know, profit's still there. It's still, you know, it's within the range of what I wanted it to be. And I'll give a good story on this, a short story, but a good story. So I was reviewing our end of month FCR like 2 days ago or 3 days ago when we got it back. And like, we had a remodel and we've been open for almost 3 months since our remodel, and didn't realize that we hadn't pushed back on our dumpsters. We have 2 dumpsters and they were getting picked up 6 times a week. We definitely did not need our second dumpster picked up 6 times a week. And I was like, oh my goodness, we didn't like scale back on that. And so I called and reduced the amount of, and I even reduced it at our other location because we don't have all of our sales haven't come back from the remodel. And so that right there was $800. But had we had the sales, and even though we still didn't need that many dumpster pickups, I probably wouldn't have even noticed it. I'd have been like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Like it's, you know, $600, $800, more than normal. But because we don't have the sales, I'm literally analyzing every single line item and going, okay, I mean, we just reduced the amount of towels that we're getting because we are getting way too many towels. And when the towel man shows up, we still have towels. And so it's little bitty things that you're like, oh, that's not even that big of a deal. Well, correct. When you have a lot of sales, it isn't a big deal if you have towels left over, or that your dumpster got picked up 3 more times than it should have. But without those sales, like it's a time, like right now, I am literally looking at every line item. And really, when you're thinking about these downtimes, like there's 2 ways to get out of the downtime. 1, control cost so that you can turn to higher profit, or 2, grow sales. And so I even think like, you know, might be able to like kind of shift into this, Alex. I don't know, but like,
that's where I was going.
I don't know if like, I mean, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day that's helping us with our marketing strategy. And it's like, we haven't had to really flex our marketing muscles, I would say, in the last 10 to 15 years. And so now that we haven't really had to flex our marketing muscles, like we called it atrophied, because, you know, when you don't work out, that's what your muscles do, is they atrophy. And so we can't be upset when it's not working the way we think it should be, because we haven't had to do a lot of that in several years. And so when I say several years, I'm like, the brand itself that we work for did a lot of the legwork for us, and we didn't have to do that much. And so now, like, we're having to even go into analyzing, like, how are we marketing our business? Who are we marketing it to? What do they want? What are the people that we're trying to market to want? What sales avenues do they want? I mean, that's a whole nother thing to think about, is like, right now in our business, like the sales channels that are growing are those on-demand sales, because we're in that 20 to 40 range of people who want to eat Chick-fil-A. And what do they want? They want food where they want it, when they want it, how they want it. And so I think that this is as much as this season is almost a little annoying, like it drives me crazy to like look at my phone and it's like red all the way down. I'm like, it actually is making me take a magnifying glass onto our business. And I think it's going to really benefit us 2 years from now. I keep talking to my owner and I'm like, hey, like, just give me just give me a little bit of time. I mean, I'm working on some things that are going to really help like pivot us into our next for sure in the business world. But I mean, I think these times, as annoying as they are and as like hard as it is to watch, like it not be as easy as it was before, like the most rewarding things don't come easy. And so I think the times where, it was really easy and it was really fun and like our team was killing it and you would look at everything and everything's green and like there's 10% growth and that was fun. But I think I'm going to be even more excited to look a year from now and like have done really hard work to get to that. So
yeah,
I don't know if any of that resonates with any of y'all, but that's just where my mind's at. Even on the hard days, I'm going, okay, like I know I'm in the infinite game and like I see that it's going to get better.
Yeah. And I think like too, like I think like in our stores, it's like you had a team of leaders who came into the business when it's growing, flourishing, sales are going crazy. And then it's like, that's how they learned, that's how they were first introduced. And hey, this is how you lead a shift with this amount of people, this sales volume, this flexibility of being able to float super easily. And it's like, now we have to kind of retrain them. Like, hey, this is how you be even more flexible, get your team to be even more productive. And I think also to like, even that cost, like, I think like, one of our stores is known for breaking more things than the other store. And it's like, dude, all the leaders understand the little costs, and I say little because some of them could be big. Like, why does a lemonade bowl cost so much? But it's like, how do they understand those costs? So like when we not being a good steward of what's entrusted to us and just throwing around things and thinking that, oh, it's a nickel a dime. No, it's not. And those little things add up day after day. But I think that's a growing season for our team. And like you said, Giovanna, this season of growing and getting that magnifying glass will help you in the future because your team only going to be sharper from this season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with both of you guys' sentiment. And I'll just start, responding to Giovanna's first. Like, I think you said a bunch. You said a lot. So I'm gonna do my best to articulate my thoughts here.
Sometimes, Alex, when I get excited, it just keeps coming out, and I'm like, okay, wait, I have to say that too because I know that like I feel like there are so many people right now that are in this season, like and I see so much discouragement, like, and it's hard to get up and get out of bed and want to go to work when you're discouraged, right?
100%.
And so that's why I'm sorry. It just like kept shooting out, just bubbling out of me,
No need to no need to apologize. Very, very good perspective. One of the things you said, and I'll just translate it the way I heard it, is understanding your new and growing customer base and what their preferences are is going to be huge for you if you're going to be competitive in this space and you're going to see sales come back. I think it's safe to say the things that we traditionally did over the last 10 to 15 years aren't yielding the same increases that they used to. Actually, I'll just add this comment in on this as well. We had a meeting today with another operator to come in and evaluate some stuff with us. And he mentioned that, once upon a time, malls were more profitable than freestanders. And that's kind of hard to wrap your brain around. Like, nowadays they're closing malls because they're not profitable because the momentum has shifted from the mall dining experience to the freestanding experience. And now when you take that same thought and you look at on demand and thinking about on demand, whether you do it yourself or you leverage a third party entity like a DoorDash or Uber Eats, how well are you executing at those items to help you grow the sales where you are getting them at? A lot of times we think, well, I've got people out there, they're trained, they know what to do, and the drive-thru is just not busy. Well, you don't realize that a lot of your clientele might be young mothers who have to pick up their kids after school and they're trying to rush to get to dance practice or soccer practice, and curbside might be the most appealing thing for them because it limits the amount of movement that they need to do and they can get out quicker. How well are you prioritizing that? Or if you have people who, and for us, and I'll just speak to our business a little bit, we're really trying to create a habit around the on-demand economy, because we realize that even people who may not, that you might think it may not be a fiscal responsible purchase to go do DoorDash versus going through the drive-through, they're still doing it anyway. Because most of us here have read Atomic Habits by James Clear, and he talks about what the brain psychologically is trying to find the path of least resistance in everything that you're doing, right? And so if getting Chick-fil-A involves me putting my keys in my car and then getting dressed and getting presentable and waiting in that long line that we're known to having, versus just picking this up right here, well, my phone, for those of you who are listening, just picking my phone up and it can be at my doorstep within the next 25 minutes or so, I think your brain psychologically is going to, even if it costs a little bit more, you're going to leverage that sales channel over doing drive-through. And so, or going to the restaurant. And I can't tell you, for those of you who have maybe done delivery firsthand, some of the places we've gone to, especially on the residential end, I don't think they're getting in our drive-throughs the way they come to the door. You know what I mean? They're not going to get in their car and show up in our drive-through the way they open the door sometimes. And plus, adding in the fact that I think I just said this today, a pre-COVID world, putting food at the doorstep might get you shut down from the health department if you did that. You know what I mean? Before COVID came around. Now COVID made that commonplace. And so there's so many different things that play into the role of where customers are deciding to spend their dollars. I think we all have to learn to be competitive in what customer preferences are.
Well, just thinking, like, kind of, Alex, my brain is going to like Amazon. Like, what made Amazon so successful? Like, I mean, I've been buying from Amazon for a really long time. And prior to, like, when it wasn't very popular to have a subscription, you pay $130 something to get your stuff. But I'm like, what has Amazon done better than any company that I've ever seen or that I know of, or that anybody knows of, is that they're like, literally order something, it'll be here by 5:00. Like, that's what people want. I mean, I even buy snacks for my kids' lunches on Amazon. Why? Because time is of the essence. Like, I don't have a ton of time my grocery orders, I'll pick up. I go to the grocery store, like, go inside. Maybe once every month, or I don't go. I just order it online and go either drive through and pick it up, and so I just think we have to start, like, in these times. This is where, like, the most creativity, like, happens, is because you got to think outside the box.
Yeah.
Like, what do the people want?
Yeah. And I think to your point about, like, getting back to the marketing, like, I know, Chick-fil-A is known for, like, being like a family store, like a family restaurant, right? But I think, like, what's becoming more popular, like, in society is, like, spending that face time with your children. Like Alex mentioned, like, taking them to dance, or even just, like, hanging out in the house, playing board games, things like that. And so I think providing that parent the opportunity to, like, hey, we can bring food that our team members are, through third parties to your doorstep to give you the time to, like, spend with your kids, or get caught up on tours or things like that, or even for those business people who have meetings and things like that. I think it, that benefits them so much more. So I think just challenging all the stores out there just to really look into those sales channels.
Yeah, and I think the last thing that we're going to talk about, this has been a great conversation. We had a bunch on the board to talk about. Maybe we've talked about 2 of 20 things that we've got listed here, and that's kind of how it goes. But I think the last thing I want to talk about, we mentioned about labor. We've talked about the on-demand sales channel. But I guess what's going to be common for the majority of people listening to this is that at restaurant experience. And I want to kind of reference a conversation that I had recently, which that podcast episode should be out before this one, so you guys will get a chance to hear this. But I had a chance to talk to a gentleman by the name of Vance Morrison, and he was talking about prioritizing creating more value in the experience, and that's going to yield a return in your organization. And I remember a long time ago, Dan Cathy was speaking at what was then Seminar, but it's now called Next. Kind of dating myself a little bit by saying Seminar a little bit, but he was talking about second mile service, and he was talking about, instead of offering a discount on what you serve, increase the value in the experience that your customers get, and my conversation with Vance, he told me that, through different seasons of his life, he had different levels of employment, and he ended up creating his own business, and he has a carpet cleaning business. And he started talking to me through some of the core things that they do in his business that just pay dividends to them in terms of growth, right? He told me that the experience starts when the cleaning van shows up to the property. They don't park in their driveway because, God forbid, one of his vans has an oil leak and he doesn't want to damage that person's driveway. So he's not going to, he makes sure every driver, when you go to do a service at a person's house, you park on the street. Each driver pulls out a mat, put it on the front door, to show the customer that they're going to wipe their feet off before they enter their property. A lot of little psychological things that he was doing there just to continue to create the value add inside of his business. Every new customer that they had, he gives them a little box with what he called it, maybe a little this memento and a card with his cell phone number on it, just to give to that customer, to give them a small gift from them and a personal touch of his cell phone number that he's giving out. Now, granted, we're not going to give our cell phone numbers out in what we do, but he told me, he said that, that little gift and that card might cost me $5 to give to the customers, but I've seen a 27% increase in the sales that we do in particular neighborhoods just through adding those small little value adds and really looking at and combing every step of the transaction. And so when we think about our business, from when the customer drives onto the parking lot, to when they enter the restaurant, to when they're interacting with the person at the front counter, to the person who's working in dining room, to the experience that they have when they leave, to the experience they have in the restroom, to every little piece of the organization, how dialed in are we into every customer facing component that we offer? And so I think for you, those of you who are listening, challenge you to really sit back and observe what's going on in your business. I think I heard someone from the support center talking, challenging operators, sit in your dining room and really observe the experience, observe what your team members do, and then offer feedback and critique, and seeing where can you elevate the service. A lot of times we might not have to spend $5 per customer. Certainly we don't want to do that, but you already have the labor in place. It might just be, how is that labor behaving while customers are there during the downtime? Like, a lot of times we depend on the dining room person to handle all second mile service. Well, if you're behind the counter and you're not waiting on anybody, can you go out there and add to that? Can you add to creating emotional connections with the guest with the customer while they're sitting there? Can you assist in making sure that the facility is as clean as it can be, so it's ready for a customer to come in? Can you add a interval in the restroom cleaning cadence to make sure that restroom is top notch? And I guess I'm gonna get a little personalized here in two ways. One, I remember when I first got hired, we used to have these thing called the VCR. Those of you might not know what a VCR is, but all of our training tapes and everything was on these big old blocks called the VHS cassettes. And during orientation, there was a lot of people who talked about the cleanliness of the restroom, right? When you thought about clean restrooms, it was synonymous with Chick-fil-A. Now, I'm not trying to give away where you guys live or where we live, but there's a very large entity very close to you guys that I would think maybe has taken that title. Not saying from y'all particularly, but a lot of people say, well, I'm stopping at Buc-ee's because I know the restroom's clean. And it's like, well, do we have that same reputation? I'm sure you guys' restrooms are clean. I'm not saying it's not. I know, I'm not saying that at all. But do you have a high level of trust with your customer base that they know every time they come to the parking lot, there's nothing going to be there? I just talked to somebody about this the other day. I was at I did a live podcast recording with some other people, and I was like, no one's never going to come in and rant and rave about how clean a parking lot is. They will say something when it's excessively dirty though, or when it's something there. And I think it's those little things, all of our marketing campaigns talk about the little things that we do for the guests, but do we think about the little things that we do in our operation that really pay a positive impact into the organization? Our operator, sometimes we put up things around the store on the glass, and we might take the publication off, and that little piece of tape that you use to tape that up there might be there, right? It might be there for a while. And so we're so used to just kind of saying we're going to focus on the business, and that kind of stuff jumps out to him. And my question would be why isn't it jumping out to us? We're there every day. You're in the restaurant every day, managing what's going on and seeing what's happening. And you're ultimately responsible for the guest experience. Why aren't we taking those little bit of time to peel that piece of tape off? I watched my operator today. He was outside. He was at the flagpole, and we have some a little bit of grass and plants right there. He's picking up stuff out of the planted area, and it's like, why isn't everybody doing that? People used to have stories about Dan Cathy. If they went to Walmart with Dan Cathy and he's walking from his car to the door, he's picking up trash along the way, showing that example of servantship. And I think that ultimately
he did that at Trilith when I went. That was like a year ago. He was at Trilith, which is his town, and he was walking through the street picking up trash. I mean he's going to continue to do it.
But think about this though. He has to be. I don't know what his net worth is, but I mean, if you are in the Chick-fil-A world, who a person with the last name Cathy got to have something going on, and still to have the humility to understand that everything matters. And I think, just to put a wrap this conversation up, and of course you guys can chime in on this after I'm done, but it's like, as a leader in your organization, are you looking at every little thing? We started this conversation in saying analyzing your business, and that was really from a top level view conversation, right? Are you drilling into the numbers? Are you understanding where you're at? But also, in addition to that, are you drilling into what's going on in the restaurant? Again, I love your saying. Like, I forget it sometimes, but those sales do hide a multitude of sins. You will excuse the way the dining room looks sometimes if we just did a day part and we're up 20%. Like, it's like, okay, we'll get to it. We're gonna get it back in shape, but are you more inclined to address that faster, being that it's slower? It has your gears changed in those areas. And so I think this conversation is really a challenge to each of you guys are listening. If you are experiencing a downswing in your business, the challenge is for you to really get into the weeds and understand, what are your team members doing? What are your leaders prioritizing, and how are they viewing the business?
Yeah, I want to say too, just a little bit to that, Alex, because this is something that we've actually been working on. Is like that value proposition for the guests. Like, now more than ever, people want what they pay for, and they want more than what they pay for. I mean, we've even seen that as like taste of food now is number one thing that drives overall satisfaction for a guest. Whereas 3 years ago, it was speed of service. They wanted it faster, and that was what, drove the transaction for the guest. But I mean, I even am looking at it through the lens of right now, and as sad as this is, and as hard as it is for me to admit, it's like, we've kept some team members on our team who don't smile. And I'm like, that's part of what we do at Chick-fil-A is smiling. Like that's called core 4. There's something called core 4. It's part of the core 4. But like, we've just allowed it because it's like, well, it's just one person. Like, it's not, it's not everybody. And so, and I think, we've actually let some people go recently for not doing the core 4. Like, you just, and ultimately I'm like, do you want to be in customer experience? Like that's my question, is like, if you don't like customers, this is not a place for you to work. But I think we've like overlooked it because the sales have just been there. And it's like, well, 90% of our team smiles. And so I think that's good enough. And I'm like, no, that's not good enough. I remember when I started at Chick-fil-A, I worked in a mall 25 years ago, or 24 years ago. And there was only 20 employees, by the way. So I think at our most there was 20. I'm talking 14 was probably normal. And that was not at one time, by the way. There was like 4 or 5 at one time. But if my operator saw me not smiling, I'm straight going down. Like, he he would call it straight out. He'd be like, somebody's having a bad day and it looks like it's you. And we're going to smile today. And so, like, I think we've kind of come to accept it. And with COVID, I think it was because the mask covered their face. And it's like, we had to learn how to re-smile and all those things. And it's like, I'm just not going to allow it. I'm not going to allow our business to not have smiling team members, because that's what we say we want. And that is what our guest wants. That's what our customer wants. And so, and you know, most people that come to Chick-fil-A, they're like, I went into Verizon last week to get one of our cell phones fixed, and it was for the store. And so I had, you know, my name tag on, and he's like, I just need to ask you a question. He was a manager there. He's like, where do you find those people that smile all the time? And I started talking to him, and then he said, well, do you do something else? I was like, well, yeah, I've started this coaching business with friends. He's like, oh, totally get that. That's where this is coming from. Because I was starting to coach him on his team members. I was like, you see this team member? I'm not really sure that they want to be here today. But to me, like, we've allowed things in the times that were really good that really weren't who we are. And I'm looking at Neff right now and some of our other leaders. I'm like, y'all, if Susie does not smile every day, Susie can't be here. Like, and we're willing to talk to her. And like, if it's just one bad day or something like that, it's okay. But I think we have just kind of allowed it because we're like, well, it's not that big of a deal. No, it is that big of a deal that we need team members to do the core 4. And so I think that value proposition, like in this season, I mean, I told y'all I have a magnifying glass right now. In this season, I think like it's good for us to evaluate our business like that, because ultimately, we want every single guest that comes into our restaurants to have the best experience. And I don't care if you're a carpet cleaning company, Amazon, Kroger, Walmart, HEB, Buc-ee's, whatever it is. Like, we're in the customer experience world. And so we need to do our best to wow our guests every single day. And we have to not accept less than that.
Absolutely. So first of all, just thank all you guys for the contribution to today's episode. Really encouraged by you guys' stories, you guys' perspectives, and I hope you guys out there who are listening hear us out here. I'll just keep echoing it. High sales just hit a lot of things that we probably should have always been working on. And now we have the opportunity to get our businesses in a place to where we know they're going to be more aligned with what we know who we are and what we want to represent. And so I'm just going to end it there. I think we might be due a part 2. It depends on how we can wrestle these schedules together. But no, most definitely. Say what?
I said Neff gonna be like part 20.
Yeah, for real. But no, thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Pivot Experience. Find us on Instagram. Also, we offer a free monthly event called Lead Better that we host at the end of the month. So you can go to tpenow.com and check that out. You can sign up. It's 100% free. Also, our discovery calls are free as well. So if you've heard anything here that we were talking about and it resonated with you and you wanted some additional help in your organization, or you feel like your leadership team could spend some more time with either one of us to help you get into the next season in your business, we would love to have a conversation with you guys to help you navigate through the challenges that you might have. We do offer coaching in English and in Spanish. And so if you have some team members on your team, we have some availability there. And if we don't have the availability currently, we can definitely put you on a waiting list to get you in with a coach that will help you guys get to the next season in your life. And so again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And until next time, guys, peace.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your friend, Pastor John R. Adolph from the Antioch Church in Beaumont, Texas. And I just want to slip this in right quick so you'll never forget. It's all about progress over perfection here at TPE.
Tap into the Pivot Experience, where we help young, hungry entrepreneurs move on to the next step.